to the point where even during a threesome, I have to be the cuckold and watch them because they're just, can I say that word?
Yeah, you can.
And watch them.
That word on YouTube, that is okay. Not those other ones, but that one happens to be all right. I like what you said about like how when you met him that he was just kind of like it was sort of this natural flow, like you were just like when women describe this, it's more like, oh, I just knew it was him, I just knew it was a thing, like it was something. I've said this before because people have asked me about like how did you like meet your wife, how did you know what was the process there, because everybody wants the secret sauce, right? They want the secret formula. People ask me like, Rolo, how did you vet your wife? I'm like, I didn't vet my wife, I vetted me first because I had to say, is this the kind of person who I will not cheat on? Basically, that's what it was. I'm like, because I know me, I've seen me do it. Right. So I'm like, is this the kind of person that I could be faithful to for the rest of my life? And the answer was yes. I was like, yeah, goddamn right. Yeah.
Okay.
And then from there, it wasn't like I had this checklist of things she had to do. It was more or less the same thing where it's like, okay, this feels like the most natural thing in the world to the point where it's like I'm dating non-exclusively, she's dating non-exclusively, we're seeing each other. And then at one point during our sort of dating, she says, I don't like the idea of you being with other people. I want to be exclusive. And she was asking me this. I wasn't like trying to get her as my girlfriend. And I'm like, yeah, I think that's a good idea. And so from there on, after about a year after that, that's when we got married. So, but it was a process, but it wasn't like some sort of conscious process, I think. Right. And so, by the way, next week it'll be 27 years. I love you very much.
Bro, he was telling me, I think it's 27. I was like, bro, you better know.
No, next week. It's next week. It's 27 years. When I think about like guys wanting to sort of follow, have a template or something like that, I can't really say because it seems like it's almost like a byproduct of like, I really like having sex with her. I really like spending time with her. It just seems like a good idea. Let's go with it. And I'm glad to say that it worked out the way that it did.
Rolo, do you think that a relationship that has to set boundaries verbally, do you think that relationship is doomed? If a woman has to tell a man, look, I don't like when you do this, and a man has to tell a woman, I don't like when you do this at the onset, do you think it's...
I don't think it's necessarily doomed, but I think there's two different dynamics in play right there. So the first one is the Jonah Hill thing that we were just talking about a minute. And just for the record, because I know people in the chat and the people in the comments after this are going to ask me this. First of all, I think that boundaries are toothless unless you actually, unless there's consequences.
He
unless
broke up with her.
Unless there's a spanking, the kid, unless you touch the hot stove, you're not going to learn the lesson.
He dumped her.
Yeah, so he
but
did.
Is the broken boundary automatically a breakup, or can I like punch him in the neck?
I think it's contextual. What is it, right? So
if he cheats on his taxes, don't leave him. If he's a man, you might consider, it's up to you.
Because I've been in a relationship and the guy was like, I didn't know what your boundaries were. I'm learning this.
It's different having to hold a guy's hand and teach them every aspect of being in a relationship than to establish
I have a story.
boundary.
I have a story for you, and I've never told this on anywhere. So you're going to get this. Because one of my clients actually asked me about this recently because we were talking about it. And I was saying exactly what I said to you guys. Like, if you're having to have these conversations in the first place, I want your genuine desire. I want that woman to know me well enough to know what my boundaries are in the first place, right? Or to want me enough to say, hey, I don't actually want to go do those things or advertise myself. Like, you won't find my wife on any social media whatsoever. She doesn't want to be on that. She wants me to come home and I've been out here for 10 days, right? She wants me to come home and so we can have a good time together, right? But it was a while back. I think it was probably about a year into our marriage. And this was before, there were cell phones, but I didn't have a cell phone at this time. So we're talking probably, I think 97, 98, somewhere around there. And I was at an event, and she couldn't get in touch with me. And she had some sort of problem. I can't even remember it was so long ago, I don't even remember the problem. But at some point she was talking to me, she got really irate with me on the phone, and she hung up on me. And I had dealt with that with the borderline personality disordered girlfriend that I had so many times. And I was like, so when I went back to her, I said, look, I don't have many boundaries, right? Like, you know me. But I was like, if you ever do that again, I'm done. We're done. That's it. Because I will not put up with that kind of disrespect. I put up with it way too long with an ex-girlfriend, and I will not put up. That was just, you're right. It triggered me. And that was it. That was the end of it. So so is that a boundary? Is that setting a boundary? Yeah, but it's about hanging up on it. It's disrespect.
But your question was if they have to explain it in the beginning, and the answer is yes. My girlfriend is 25 years younger than me, and I'm 45 years old. So there's certain things And also, this is my fault and her, like an issue I have to deal with and the issue she has to deal with. I'm around my buddies, especially with the guys I was in the U.S. military with. We talk like sailors, and I don't communicate with her like that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And she's from Southwest Arkansas, and the way they show love is by telling each other to the f off. That you're a piece of shit. Like that's
Sounds
how they
like
communicate.
New York.
Yeah.
Sounds like
Yeah.
And I explained to her, I'm like, that's fine out there, but here, I'm not offended with your language. My problem is we need to decide when are we catching this airplane flight? Where hotel are we staying at? When are we going to go do this thing? And like the constant exaggerations and the hyperbole or her joking accusations, it breaks down our communication. But she didn't know that because this is just the way she communicates with some of her family members. And it's something we've had to work through. And I was like, at first I was like, hey, listen, you're exaggerating. And she's like, oh, blah, 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 blah. After a while, she's like, you're right. I am exaggerating. I need to stop doing this. And I'm like, I understand this is the way you communicate with your family. But like with me, like I am a U.S. military officer. When you say be here at this time, that's what it means to me. Later on, if you want to joke, just let me know that you're joking. But like these other times when you say this, it's not conducive for our relationship for you to communicate with me like that.
But what kind of joke? Like what kind of joke?
Every we just always joke. It's like, oh, you're gonna go over there and cheat on me because you're gonna be at so and such and such. And I'm
So
like,
you got tired of hearing it.
I'm like, babe, like this thing is, I'm telling too much here, but we've had threesomes with multiple women. I'm like, I don't talk to any of them after I talk to you. You've had plenty of instances to know that's not going to happen.
Right.
So like at some point you have to say, wait, this thing going on in here, I need to turn it off because it's not conducive to this relationship. And so that's kind of
and
what's
to her
going
credit,
on.
she has the ability to do that.
Yeah,
and
she
I was
does.
going to say that is people have always asked me like, what do you look like? What are some good like green flags, right? Some qualities in a woman. Be hot, be sexual. Okay, those are out of the way. Have a capacity for insight, like to know to check yourself, right? To
Self-awareness.
Well,
Yes.
Kylie has done this because I've noticed this because I'm around these guys all the time. But I've also noticed the same quality in my wife, right? Because so she'll like go beyond the pale, right? Go beyond and I'm a very patient guy, and so like when I lose my patience, it's because I expect people to understand I'm a really patient guy, and you push a barely patient guy over the edge, right? So, but the thing is like I've had occasions where my wife has done something, and maybe it kind of bugged me, maybe it didn't. Maybe I didn't even think about it, but she'll come back to me later. She goes, you know what? I was pretty fucked up when I did that. Like, can I? I apologize. I love you. Blah blah blah. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have reacted that way. I'm like. Really? I love you. You know,
it's
because,
incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible because most women don't have that. At least in the last, last half of the millennials and certainly the Zoomers right now don't have really a capacity to go. You know what? How did I behave? And man, I really feel bad about that.
Yeah.
I should apologize.
So then all
Like
these
organically.
these podcasts spewing that older women don't have value past 26, 27. They're saying, I want a girl that's 18, 19 years old because they've been ran through less.
No, they just want them because they're virgins.
Exactly.
That's why. Or
They won't know how
think
bad of a
they
way
are.
they are. They don't know any better. But the point is that you look for that emotional maturity in a relationship that you don't just get from a 19-year-old.
Well, I'll tell you how I've answered that in the past. That women's primary agency in this life is their sexuality. So when they are 22, 23, 24 years old, they are at the peak of their sort of feminine power, because that's when guys want to go take them to Aruba, and Drake wants to take you to, on his yacht party or something like that. And then every year after that, it slowly decays and declines and goes down. Now, does that mean the woman is worthless? No, not at all. I'm just saying that her primary agency is her sexuality. That's why when women want to protest or they want some attention in some way, like if you see some abortion protest, they strip off their clothes. At Jennifer Aniston on the cover of whatever magazine, whoop, off comes the clothing, because that's how women feel empowered, through their sexuality, through the attention that they get, through they complain about the male gaze all you want. That's the first impulse women have when they want to, like, make no mistake, this, I want attention, listen to me, look at me, look at me. All I have to do is take off my clothes, and that's what will happen. Now, is that the only agency they have? No, it's not. Then it's what is value added beyond that. So it's once we get past that, once we've established, okay, you're sexual, you're valuable because of that. What else is there? What value added do you bring to the table? I would argue that like a true organic sense of insight is one of those things.
Hey, Rolo, I had just one thing to. Okay, so you know how you talked about boundaries, and you were like, "Well, my wife wanted to do those things for me." I've had situations where a guy would say, like for example, yeah, my ex can, like, she used to travel the world with her girlfriends. I don't care. I never bugged her. I was like this, I'm like this. And all of a sudden, you take the step into that world, like, go out with your girlfriends for the first time, and then now he's upset. Now he's doing this. I'm like, but I thought...
You're changing your behavior.
Yeah, I thought with your ex. Like, and that's what I've always experienced. Like, he was so cool with his exes, doing everything they wanted to do, but then with me, there's a lot of possession. So I think that's, like, what I've kind of encountered, where people are not, like, clear about their boundaries. They're telling you something else, and then later on they're like, I'm going to retract this.
Well, I think here's the other thing is, if you spend enough time with a guy or a woman for that matter, you kind of get to know who they are as a person. You should be anyways. You should have the genuine interest and desire. If you're going to be with them in any kind of relationship, you should, like, know, what they like to eat, what kind of their hobbies are, what their mom was like, what they went through. And so from that perspective, it's like, okay, like, you should know bloody well what his boundaries are already, because you already know what kind of guy he is. If he's the kind of guy who's like, no woman of mine is going to go out on girls' night out or anything like that. If he has that sort of that personality, you should already know that beforehand.
I agree,
and if that's the guy that you want to be with, then that's the guy.
I would agree with you, but it's always like, oh yeah, go, who cares? Like, and then I think that he's saying that so he can do guys' night out, and then I won't go out.
So then, it's like a trade-off. It's transactional.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, like, I choose to go out finally, and it's like, then it'll be the first problem. It's like, well, you didn't come home on time. Then it's like, oh, you didn't communicate.
Where were you? Who were you with?
Or yeah, like,
home?
oh, actually,
Put
don't
an
like
air
those
tag
girls.
on your car. Yeah,
I don't like those girls.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. It's not about those girls. Now it's about your location. Okay, here's my location. Next time I go out, it's something else, and then just.
Well, I'll flip it around for you. I have guys who've told me before, hey, Rolo, I suspect that my girlfriend's cheating. Should I go root through her phone? I'm like, no, don't go snoop through her phone. Like, if you are getting that instinct, that's like something on your periphery or peripheral attention. Something is inconsistent with her behavior, and so your gut is telling you something's not quite right.
I thought that too, and I asked him, like, do you think I'm cheating? And I'm like, really, do you think I'm cheating? Because I think every man that I've ever dated always knows. For me, it's always going to be one penis and multiple vaginas. That's just how I always believe it. And if I do have a girl, it would never be behind that person's back. It's always with or with you in the same room. That's how it's always going to be. So, and I established that very clear. But for some reason, I always I don't know if it's the same type of guy. I always get a guy that seems to be so lax, but gets to be so possessive.
Later on.
Oh my! To the point where even during a threesome, I have to be the cuckold and watch them because they're just. Oh, can I say that word?
Yeah, you can.
And watch.
Yeah, that word on YouTube, that is okay. Not those other ones, but that one happens to be all right.
And watch them do it while I sit back and just like and watch them because they're so jealous. It's weird. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, the jealousy instinct in men is different than it is in women. That's why. So men are much more focused on the physical when it comes to jealousy.
Yeah,
they want to know
like,
where you did it.
Because you could have someone who isn't our baby, but you know it is your baby. That's why we're more jealous. That's the reason why. Also, we have 17 times as much testosterone.